I rise today in recognition of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. The day is an opportunity for us to honour the survivors of Indian residential schools and those who did not make it back. It's a day for us to take time and reflect on the intergenerational trauma caused by residential schools and commit to breaking the cycle of harm. Thanks to the grassroots efforts of Indigenous peoples across Canada, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation was first marked September 30th, 2021. Learning the truth of Ontario's dark history of Indian residential schools is the foundation of the path towards reconciliation. We all must do the work to understand the history and how this history impacts us all today. Today, we continue to work with Indigenous partners and communities to understand the supports needed to bring the children home, to right the wrongs of the past, to set forward a path of healing and of understanding the intergenerational impact of residential schools. We have a duty to survivors and their families to learn from the mistakes of the past and work together to build a brighter future for Indigenous people across the province. Today, I can say Ontario leads the country, having committed $62.3 million to date to support the identification, investigation, protection, and commemoration of burials at former residential schools across the province. This builds on previous investments to ensure that culturally responsive and trauma-informed mental health and wellness supports are available. In 2021-22, we worked across government to provide over $20 million in Indigenous-focused mental health and addiction support funding for Indian residential school survivors, families, elders, and communities as this critical work proceeds. This summer, we launched a new application-based fund called the Indian Residential School Community Engagement Fund. The fund provides a new source of funding for additional Indigenous communities and organizations that have not been eligible for funding previously because they have not directly been leading work at one of the 18 Indian residential schools in Ontario. It also provides an opportunity for existing partners to apply for additional funds to support their participation in Indian residential school investigations at other sites where community members attended. As we continue to advance meaningful reconciliation, the province is also working with Indigenous partners to explore opportunities to deepen Ontarians' collective awareness and understanding of the trauma from the legacy of these institutions. When our government came into power in 2018, we established an Indigenous Women's Advisory Council made up of First Nations, Inuit, Métis, and 2 SLGBTQ leaders on violence prevention to provide culturally relevant advice, expertise, and input on issues impacting their communities. I had the opportunity to stand beside these strong leaders on Tuesday when we raised the flag on the front lawn of the Legislature to commemorate National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Ontario is continuing to honour the principles of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission while we focus on practical initiatives to improve outcomes for Indigenous peoples in Ontario. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action set out a path for advancing meaningful reconciliation. But we still have much more work to do, and Ontario is committed to the continued implementation of the TRC calls to action and our collective reconciliation journey. We are working to foster relationships through fair, respectful, and meaningful agreements in advancing the social and economic sustainability of Indigenous communities. Mr. Speaker, our government will continue to listen to the perspectives of Indigenous peoples to support practical actions and initiatives for advancing reconciliation and to ensure that meaningful opportunities are available to Indigenous communities across Ontario. I invite all members of the House to honour National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and to walk with us on the path of reconciliation. Thank you. May good.